News desk with me, Mamiesi Nyamicha Thompson. In the headlines, vetting of Supreme Court nominee Justice Akabu for put on hold after a petition filed against him. Meanwhile, 6 others who made it to the hot seat concluded yesterday.
I cannot be intimidated by you. I'm a man with indomitable spirit. I still rule that a question has been asked. The nominee will not answer this question again.
Also coming up, we'll get details of that coming up. Also, 4 Ghanaians face extradition to the U.S. over alleged $100 million cyber fraud scheme as the Interior Minister signs arrest order following diplomatic request from the U.S. Meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Minister accuses ex-embassy staff of diverting over $4.8 million annually in corruption scandal. Also coming up, the DVLA slaps a flat fine of 225 Ghana cedis on 48 road offences in new crackdown. We'll hear from the acting CEO. We'll also have business updates coming up on our desk. Don't go away. Let's start from the DVLA. And the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority has rolled an enforcement regime introducing a flat penalty of 225 cedis for each of 48 road-related offences ranging from vehicle defects to driver infractions and regulatory non-compliance. The revised penalties take immediate effect and is a bold attempt to clamp down on indiscipline on Ghana's roads and improve road safety nationwide. The statement released just yesterday, the comprehensive list signals a no-nonsense approach from the DVLA. And on your screen, we have a list of the infractions from vehicle roadworthy to fake license. And there's a number of, infractions on there that if you fall foul of the law, you're going to pay 225 Ghana cedis. And the acting CEO Julius Nikwe joins me in studio for a conversation on this very quickly. We're grateful for your time on our decks there. We're happy to have you in the studio. But what's interesting is this flat rate of 225 cedis to every infraction on the list. What informed this?
Let me first of all greet all viewers and go straight by the point. The DVLA took inspiration from the law. Okay. It's a law. In the year 2012, and let me say, this has been in existence for a very long time. It is not the Jomama-led administration that brought this thing.
Okay.
It's been there for a very long time. The only change is that when I got into office, we had 6 compliance officers for the entire Greater Accra. And I felt that was woefully inadequate. I had to mechanize them, equip them to work more. So we have 4 offices in Greater Accra. That is the Thermal office, the Adenta office now, which we came to commission, we came to open, Adenta office, the Wager office, and then the head office.
Okay.
I gave each office 10 compliance officers. So instead of those times then when we had 6 for the whole country. Now we have about 50 compliance officers for the whole of
15 or 50? 50. Okay.
For just Greater Accra.
Okay.
To ensure compliance. So this has been there through the Road Traffic Regulation Act 268. 283. So 683. Road Traffic Regulation 683.
Okay.
Which postulates this has been there for a very long time, so it is not.
So you say for a very long time.
From 2012.
Why wasn't it, implemented?
Because of the inefficiency of the then compliance unit.
Okay.
Now we've made it more efficient, robust, and very competent. So their presence is felt everywhere.
Okay. So how do they, implement this? Are they positioned on the roads to ensure that they comply
yes.
with the rules?
Yeah,
so what then do they do?
That is how the compliance work is.
Okay.
You go on the road and you look at people who are not being compliant with our rules and regulations, our laws passed by Parliament, and then you make sure they comply with the laws.
So you have started implementing this. So far, what has been the response?
So far, so good. It's mixed feelings. Some people are happy, some people are not happy about it. But I tell them, I mean, we can't all be happy with the law. We can't all be, some will be happy with the law, some will not be happy with the law. But so far as we know, we are doing what is right, what is good for us to do by the law. Some certainly will not be happy with everything we do. Some will be happy with everything we do. So it's mixed feelings. Okay. But we are just looking at what the law is saying. So when you check the road traffic, when you go to one regulation 158,
okay.
LI 2180, it postulates very clear. And even when it comes to the fourth point on it, it says that the delinquency charges for non-compliance issues listed above is 225. So I didn't bring the charges. It's Parliament of Ghana that brought the charges, and we are just supposed to comply.
Well, I get that. But do they explain why they settled on that figure? And is it even punitive enough?
So even yesterday, in a discussion with our directors, what happened was that earlier, the DVLA guys go there and they do the charge by their discretion. Some even go as far as 2,000, 3,000 then. Okay. And I mean, that wasn't right. So I think the DVLA had to go to Parliament for Parliament to give them a figure. And Parliament said the figure should cut across all charges. Some feel the charges are small, some feel they are way above. So you can have someone who has who is not being compliant with 4 or 5 of the laws. You just calculate and pay what is over there.
So, for example, you just mentioned if somebody falls foul of 5 or 6 or even more of the, the breaches, they're going to pay. Is the payment taken there and then?
Yes, we have a receipt for all payments, and as soon as they issue the receipt, we have a feedback at the head office. No, it doesn't go into individual pockets.
Well, I want to know, is this punitive enough? I mean, some people think this is just a revenue tactic to get money from road users or even drivers. Do you think that this amount that cuts across is punitive enough from where you sit?
We want to develop Ghana. And when you go to other jurisdictions, people pay a lot for them to develop their country. I am not saying that it's 100% or it's not 100%. What I'm saying is that this is what the law says. If there is any red flags that needs to be raised, we should look at what Parliament will have to say, or we have to go back to Parliament to say, okay, let's reduce the number of charges we have over here. But for now, this is what the law says. And we all know, with all humility, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
No excuse.
Yes, so that is what the lawyers always say to us. And this is what the law says. If there is any petition, there is any red flags, it should rather go to Parliament to re-look at the Road Traffic Regulation Act. But it's been there from 2012.
Yeah.
And it's just what has changed now is that now there are more people on the streets enforcing these laws. Okay. That is the only thing that has changed. First, in Greater Accra had only 6 compliance officers. Now they have close to 50 compliance officers. So that is what has changed. There are more DVLA staff on the street to ensure its compliance. That's all. But
how then do you collaborate with the police on the road to ensure?
No compliance officer goes out without the police.
Oh, okay.
Every station has a police officer they go out with, because we don't have the mandate to enforce arrest. So it's only the police. So they always go out with the police.
And how do you monitor these compliance officers, just for them to be fair on the road? I think that, is it that when I see that you haven't done this or your license is dead, or then you pay the fine, or there's a certain process that these people are taking through? Maybe first-time offenders, they don't really have to pay, or you pay on the spot whether you're a first-time offender or not. What process does it go through?
What happens, mostly people who prove stubborn of not paying the amount, I think they block them in the system. So you can't renew your license, you can't renew your roadworthy until when you are going to do so, you see all the charges you have to pay before these services are being provided to you. But mostly people pay, because they will explain to you, let you understand why you must pay. And because the police is there, it's easy for them to comply. Most of them come to the office. If they don't have money, we try to sit down with them and look at what the process is. We are even in talk with a microfinance company that wants to do some of these payments for, especially our drivers. then they later pay them in bits. But we are not finished. We are not done with the framework. So a little time on that will do. But for now, the process is that you pay or you come to the office and then we'll negotiate with you. We'll look at it.
Now, what are the common offenses that have come up since this was rolled out?
Mostly what they get them off is fake roadworthy or roadworthy has expired and you're not going to renew. That's mostly what they do. Then the tinted glass in front. Yeah. You know, it's offensive. Yes. When you use the dark one, sometimes people say it's my car. Yeah, but we have to protect you. Okay. Our mandate is to make the road safer. So one of the ways to make the road safer is to ensure you can see through the side mirror. You can see through your glass to have access to the side mirror. Because for you to navigate left, right, you need to check the side mirror. And when you have the thick tinted glass, there's no way you'll be able to do that. And it causes accidents. It's just to protect you and I. Okay. That is all.
Okay. Now, let's come to, registering excavators. I know there was a press conference recently about it. What's the status of that?
Okay, so after the press conference, on the 10th of June, this month, June, I took a report from our system, a report from the system. And so far, so good. We have done 5,902 excavators. Okay. The ones only on the inland. So that these ones are already in the system. We took inspiration from the fact that all the excavators that were arrested or were seized on site, none, absolutely none, were registered with or was registered with DVLA. Okay. And we find that so offensive. That is criminal.
How did they slip into the system like
this? So from the port, they just go straight to the sites and start working.
How were you sidestepped like that?
Then I wasn't in office, so I wouldn't be able to determine. But you see, the first day you get to do something is wrong. That day is the day of rectification. Okay. So coming into office, I realized if you want to stop Galamsey, it's not just about going to sack people from the site. You go there, the police will chase them away. Then what about the excavator? Let's identify the owners of the excavator. Okay. So we are not registering at the port. The port, we are done with 549 excavators. Inland, we've done 5,902. Okay. And I have the breakdown. I know there's no time. Yes. I would have given the breakdown of every office and how much.
We'll take that from you and we'll
can send the data to you.
We're great.
So, and we are also encouraging each and every dealer, excavator dealer, that please go and register your excavator. Because I've had a meeting with the IGP. On the 1st of July, there wouldn't be any grace period. Right. Yeah, there wouldn't be any grace period because we are really bent on stopping Galamsey. This is one of the measures we can put in place.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Julius Nikwe-Korte. He's the acting CEO of DVLA, joining us this morning for an interesting conversation on the new charges. And we'll continue from there. Parliament's Appointment Committee has vetted 6 out of 7 nominees to the Supreme Court with the spotlight firmly on competence, character, and constitutional clarity. The process, marked by sharp exchanges and occasional light moments, saw Justices Senyo Jamefe, Dennis Dominic J, Gabriel Simon Subare, Philip Bright Mensah, Janapari Battles Kojo, and Hafisata Amalboba answering a wide range of questions on law, ethics, and national interest. However, the vetting of Justice Akabu was postponed following a petition challenging his nomination. Well, we'll get into that shortly. James Avaji has a wrap of yesterday's processes.
The first disagreement between Minority Leader Alexander Penyo-Markin and Chairman Bernard Ahiafo came up when the chairman admitted a follow-up question from Majority Leader Mahama Yariga on Penyo-Markin's probe as to whether or not there was wrongdoing when President John Mahama imposed salary restrictions on appointees who violated his earlier April 17 deadline for declaring their assets.
Chairman, this strategy by the majority, that they have their time. When it gets to my time, then I have follow-up. Anyway, I will yield to you. If you, Chairman, would want to allow these things, no problem. Follow up, and you think that you'll be distracting me. I don't.
Honourable members, I believe everybody must be treated equally, particularly the leaders. There are instances where the minority leader called for a follow-up question and has been granted the floor to ask a follow-up question.
The ranking member again registered his protest when Bernard Ahiafo insisted that the nominee should not answer a question to the same matter which he believed was answered earlier. The two grew furious, with the chairman insisting that he cannot be intimidated by the posture of his ranking.
I cannot be intimidated by you. I'm a man with indomitable spirit. I still rule that the question has been asked. The nominee will not answer this question again. Pose another question.
Finally, the committee made headway as a nominee, Justice Akabu Amaliboba, established that there is a void created by the Constitution when it failed to provide specific sanctions for failure to declare assets within a specific period.
Honorable Chair, as has been stated, that there is no punishment regime, then what it would mean is that there's a lacuna in the law, and that must be addressed. It would need some deliberation on how this should proceed. For instance, presently we have the Constitutional Review Committee sitting. So if proposals are made to it on how to proceed, it can compile these proposals for the necessary action to be taken.
On other matters, she disagreed with assertions that Chief Justices influence the outcome of cases through the choice of justices they empaneled for some particular cases.
I believe that in the empaneling of judges, the Chief Justice performs an administrative function. Now, this administrative function is a function that has been given her by the Constitution. And I do not believe that it would or should influence the kind of decisions taken on the bench, because the Supreme Court justices of the bench are experienced, independent-minded jurists who should be able to take independent decisions.
The committee rose without vetting the final nominee, Justice Ghc225 Akabu, even though he was scheduled for Wednesday, June 18. It is unclear when that vetting will be done. James Savage, Parliament House, Accra.
And joining us in this conversation is lawyer AJ Bafwewa. He was on the committee yesterday and also a member of the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee. We're also trying to get a hold of Honorable Daffy Omakpo to join us in the conversation. But let me start with you, lawyer AJ Bafwewa. What has been your assessment of the vetting process so far?
In my humble view, it can be better. It can be better. And when I say it can be better, it is not, I'm not speaking to the competence of the nominees.
Right.
Or the other conditions they have to satisfy under the Constitution. I'm referring to our own internal arrangement,
right.
The procedure, the processes and procedure. I think it can be better. Don't forget that we are being assessed by Ghanaians, and the general view of most Ghanaians is that the vetting is more like a rubber stamp. And so we would have to work hard to satisfy Ghanaians who more or less we represent, that indeed we are working.
Right.
And so it can be better. That's all I can say now.
Well, we're glad to have Honorable Roxanne Daffy Omakpo joining us right now, also on this discussion. Honorable, you're welcome to our desk. What's your own view of the process so far?
Very professional. Indeed, it's an improvement on some of the work that we've done in the past, especially because the minority is spearheaded by the minority leader have the leeway to ask as many questions as they desire. For instance, as a minority member on the committee, you are entitled to 3 questions. You are also entitled to 3 follow-ups. So substantively, that is 6 questions per person. When it gets to leadership, you were entitled to 5 questions and 5 supplementary to each. It used not to be the case. Now, when it comes to the minority leader, who is a ranking member to the committee, you cannot attest to the fact that he has so much leverage that people actually say that he can ask questions ad infinitum. In fact, he can actually decide that he has had enough for a day and that he will come and continue on the next day. In the past, even the minority leader was limited to time. And I have had the privilege of not being a member, but participating in the process. When I joined the committee as a friend, the chairman never gave me opportunity to ask questions. And the records will bear me out. So if my brother says that it can be better, I hope that he would have compared it to what used to be the standard in the past. In any case, we are vetting Supreme Court judges. We are vetting nominees to the Supreme Court. Judges who are serving on the immediate lower bench, which is the Court of Appeal.
Right.
Now, what is the criteria for being promoted from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court? Essentially, it's about experience and quality. Because if you are not qualified to serve on the Court of Appeal, then certainly you can't be, you don't deserve to be a Superior Court judge. And Superior Court judges are judges who serve from the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. So I really don't know what question you'll be asking a judge who is being promoted to the Supreme Court, who already has served 38 years on the bench, rising from the magistracy level all the way to the Court of Appeal within the last 38 years. Right. There are some persons that the previous government, the immediate previous government, appointed to the Supreme Court who spent nearly just 3 years as a Superior Court judge. So this is the distinction. This is the difference. All the men and the women who appeared before us, these six judges out of the 7 nominated, tell me which of them is it merited to be promoted to the Supreme Court? Just a single one. All of them merit it. And politics aside, this is all we are looking for.
Right. So, Honorable Ewa, what will be the benchmark or key qualities that you're looking for if you say that it can be better? Okay, so
I think, very respectfully, you may have forgotten or missed what I stated in my initial remark. It wasn't in respect of the qualities of the nominees.
No,
it was
not
in
at all.
respect of our internal. So when you say, what qualities am I looking at when I say it can be better, then very respectfully, unless you are very
I'm referring to the committee.
Good. To appreciate what we need to do, there is the need for me to correct certain misconception in respect of some of the things my brother has stated. The appointment to the Supreme Court is not a promotion. It is an appointment. If you are a Court of Appeal judge and you are being appointed to the Supreme Court, merely because you are going to a higher court doesn't make it a promotion. Judges are not promoted from one court to the other. It is a fresh appointment which is being made. That point ought to be settled. Very respectfully, it is not a rank. It is not a rank such that everybody at a lower court is automatically qualified to be sent to the Court of Appeal at some point. No, it is not. It is a fresh appointment. The second point that has to be made for us to appreciate what we are dealing with is that when you look at the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, the only judges who are vetted on their appointment are Supreme Court judges. The interesting thing is that at all material times, all the judges have one common qualification consideration. or the considerations for the appointment of all Superior Court judges, right, beyond or apart from the number of years are all the same. That is proven integrity, high moral character, right? Proven integrity, high moral character. Okay. And so if merely because you have served at a lower court, that is the High Court or the Court of Appeal, okay, then and we shouldn't have a problem with you being appointed to the Supreme Court, then we shouldn't even let such people come for vetting. We shouldn't, because you have already been a judge. And the consideration for your appointment is that you should be a person of high moral character and proven integrity. And because you have already been appointed to the High Court or the Court of Appeal, you are deemed to be a person of high moral character and proven integrity. The rest will be for you to satisfy us in terms of your number of years at the bar, for which reason then vetting is not necessary. But the Constitution doesn't look at it from that perspective. The Constitution is looking at it from the perspective that once a person is being appointed to the Supreme Court, that person should undergo vetting. Why is the Constitution saying so? Because the Constitution looks at the Supreme Court as a very unique court. Very unique court. Unique court in terms of its jurisdiction. And so there should be the mental capacity to be in that court. The jurisdiction that court exercises, most of our courts don't exercise that jurisdiction.
But lawyer, I thought you were giving us, I appreciate your submission there, but what did the committee do that didn't do well, that needs to be improved?
You appreciate it when you understand, when you appreciate the essence of the vetting. If you don't understand the essence of the vetting, you will not appreciate the need for the committee to improve upon its internal processes. Okay? When you look at the case of Attorney General versus Ghana Bar Association, Justice Pega said something that is very, very instructive. He said that when you look at the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, what amounts to proven integrity is not spelled out. What amounts to high moral character is not spelled out. But between Parliament and the Council of State, they are able to put their heads together, right, and determine what amounts to proven integrity or high moral character.
Right.
The exercise we are undertaking, we don't go in consultation with the Council of State. It is for us to assess the judges who have come before us. The fundamental question then will be the time and the opportunities allotted to members on the panel. Are they sufficient for members of the panel to do a diligent work?
So you want the time to be improved?
Wait, we would have to compare to international best practice. When you look at the vetting of ministers, vetting of Supreme Court nominees in other jurisdictions, particularly the United States of America, is this what prevails there? No, it is not the allotment of six opportunity to ask 6 questions. No, you have time to deal with a Supreme Court nominee. And sometimes it takes days. Sometimes it takes days, 2 days, 3 days, because that office is a serious office.
Right.
It's a serious office. Now, my brother was also making reference to the past.
We'll have to be brief here, please.
My sister, very respectfully, I think that this will require a lot of...
I understand you, but if you could be very brief for me so I can go to Honorable Roxton.
Okay, so in my humble view, we need to review how we do the vetting. And we can only appreciate it once we understand the philosophy behind the need for the philosophy behind the vetting under the Constitution.
Right.
when you take into account the fact that not all the Supreme Court has a different jurisdiction from the courts where the nominees are coming from. It is not a promotion, it is a fresh appointment. And also the fact that in previous times, the opportunities available were more extensive than this time. Also, the number of questions somebody like Honorable Muntaka used to ask, we all saw it on TV. It is different. What is happening is different. The chairman overruling questions when they are very related. You know, I think that the exercise of discretion is overbearing, right? And more trying to protect the nominees who should not be protected because they have experience, they have extensive experience, and so on and so forth. The public is watching, and if care is not taken, they might think that we are just giving the nominees a pass.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Honorable Dafia Makpo. I mean, Justice Akabu was supposed to be vetted yesterday, didn't show up because of a petition. Can you tell us more about that particular petition?
Now, if you call me into an interview and you make it lopsided, next time I will decline. You don't ask me to speak within 3 minutes, and you ask him to speak. He spoke before I joined, and then you allow him to speak for another 6 minutes.
I'll plead your indulgence. You have the floor. You have the floor. You have the floor.
That is not fair.
You have the floor.
So, number one, let me refer you to Article 144(3) of the Constitution. It says, Justices of the Court of Appeal and of the High Court and Chairman of Regional Tribunals shall be appointed by the President acting on the advice of the Judicial Council. Now, in the case of the Supreme Court judges, it has this to say. Now, a person shall not be qualified for appointment as a Justice of the Supreme Court unless he is of high moral character and proven integrity and is of no less than 15 years standing as a lawyer, Article 1284. Now, if you look at the procedure for appointing a Supreme Court judge, the same standards are applicable for a Superior Court judge. Save that in the case of the Supreme Court judge, Parliament must give a pro-approval. Bafo has been talking about improvement. I was hoping that he would have said that the standards that were applied in the past were no longer applicable, and so there should be improvement. Or he wants an improvement on the present procedure in terms of ABCD. He didn't add anything. The procedure is that when the nominees are forwarded to Parliament, we cause to be published a notice inviting memos and petitions or whatever it is that any person may have against any of the nominees. It was complied with. We only received one petition against Justice Akabu. Now, when he makes the point that the questions that Muntaka used to ask is no longer, the same cases are not extended to the chief whip on the minority side, I disagree. I disagree because he's given the opportunity. It is he who has decided not to utilize it. So nobody limits him. In respect of the ranking member, you all attest to the fact that the Honorable Apenyo Marking is on record to have asked questions in excess of 4 hours. 4 hours. This matter is a topical matter among the people in the media, in the public, among the public. So to suggest that the latitude given to former minority leaders to ask questions is no longer available to the minority leader or minority members on the committee is absolutely falsehood.
Okay.
In fact, we are being accused of being overindulgent in terms of the latitude granted to the minority leader. But be as it is, if you are vetting a judge who is 66 years old, who has already served as a judge for 37 years, what are you going to ask? Well, really, unless you have evidence of some wrongdoing, Otherwise, then it is absolutely needless.
All right.
Because the man is serving at a level that is only a step below where he's supposed to go.
Right.
And I disagree with him when he says that the elevation to the Supreme Court from the Court of Appeal is not a promotion. I will only agree with him if the person were coming from practice. That one, I agree that that's an appointment. The Supreme Court used appointment in context because it provides procedure for appointing people who are already on the Superior Court bench to be elevated once from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and to the Supreme Court, or straight from the High Court to the Supreme Court. That is why we, in practice, in the law, we call it elevation.
Right.
To be elevated is to be promoted. And he therefore knows this. He's just trying to play politics with the language.
So, Mr. Dafeamapo,
in respect of Justice Akabu, the procedure is that where a petition has been filed against a nominee, the petition must be determined.
Okay.
For us to establish whether or not it has a merit, the merit of which would torpedo the success of Akabu being successfully vetted and cleared by Parliament. And that is the procedure we have adopted. So which other standard is therefore suggesting that it needs improvement? The process is televised live. Members of the public get the opportunity to watch. Just that we don't allow them to participate by way of sending questions. But they do, because he therefore has been receiving questions from his constituents and his party people to ask.
So, Roxanne, exactly what is in the petition against Justice Akabu?
Okay, the tenor of the petition and the essence was that there was a matter before Justice Akabu, which he determined and entered judgment. And the petitioner claimed that as a party in that case, Justice Akabu abused him verbally in the judgment.
Okay.
Now, we have perused the petition. We have also perused the judgment. What we have discovered is that Justice Akabu actually quoted from an exhibit adduced by the petitioner as a party in the case. It is the content of that exhibit that he quoted verbatim as part of the judgment to make a point. So if the contents of the exhibit that he quoted were offensive, then those were not the words of Justice Akabu. They were the contents of exhibits that form part of the court's records, which he relied on to make a point in some part of the judgment. But we'll deal with this matter. That is why the chairman and all of us saw fit to withhold his vetting until we deal with the petition and establish the merit or otherwise of it to be able to make progress. If it is meritorious, then we'll report back to plenary.
All right.
If it is not,
all right,
then we'll do the needful and still report back to plenary.
All right. Okay. Grateful for your time here on our desk. Gentlemen, we'll have to, suspend this conversation for lack of time. I'm so grateful for joining us on our desk. And moving on, 4 Ghanaian nationals are facing extradition to the United States in connection with a $100 million fraud scheme, following a formal request by U.S. authorities. Now, the individuals, Isaac Odro Boateng, Inusa Ahmed, Derek Vani Yeboah, and Patrick Kwame Asari, are believed to be in Ghana and are wanted by the U.S. for the alleged roles in the massive financial crime. Minister for Interior Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak has signed an official order authorizing their arrest. And on that particular statement, it says, whereas a requisition has been made by the diplomatic representative of the United States of America through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration to me, the minister, to whom the president has assigned functions under the Extradition Act 1960, Act 22, for the arrest of Isaac Odro Boateng, Inusa Ahmed, Derek Vani Yeboah, and Patrick Kwame Asari, who are all Ghanaians. And whereas they said Isaac Odro Boateng, Inusa Ahmed, Derek Vani Yeboah, I beg your pardon, Welcome back. We apologize for that intermittent break. Now, Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Kudjeto-Ablakwa has disclosed that a corruption scandal at Ghana's embassy in the U.S. cost the state over $4.8 million annually. He accused former employee Fred Kwarting of diverting consular fees to his accounts through a private website, bypassing official embassy channels. The scheme, uncovered by an audit team, led to the temporary closure of the embassy. He emphasized that the government is taking action to recover the lost funds and hold all parties accountable. There's more in the following report.
Biden encountered a backlog of over 2,300 visa applications. And I'm sure that honorable members have seen a number of videos about frustrations being expressed by visa applicants at the Washington embassy. Mr. Speaker, there was also no structured filing or tracking system in place. Compounding the issue, an average of 350 new applications were being submitted daily. The situation was highly disorganized and required urgent intervention. Mr. Speaker, I arrived at the mission on 1st June 2025 to personally assess the situation on the ground. During my visit, I held meetings with both local and home-based staff, where I clearly conveyed the government's position on the matter. I underscored that Mr. Frederick Kwarting, the principal suspect in this case, along with any accomplices, will be held fully accountable under the law. This
Well, joining us is Nana Asafo-J. Aya. He's Deputy Ranking Member on the Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration Committee. Nana, what do you make of the decision taken by the Foreign Affairs Minister and also the issues ongoing about the scandal?
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I mean, my position and that of the minority's position is not new. We've been on this matter for some weeks or months now. We do not have any problem with the minister trying to probe, inquire, ensure discipline, sanction people who have done wrong and all that. We do not have any issue. In fact, yesterday, the ranking member simplified everything that the minister stood there to talk about. Everything. This has to do with a staff of the embassy privately engaged in a contract with the same embassy he works with. And that is why we have all these issues. So some of us, we have our own issue and position on this matter. That's why we have requested for the report. But the point is that we encourage the minister to go ahead and do his investigation and probe. And then the necessary sanctions that is due anyone or anybody in this whole issue should be meted out. But our problem is simple. Our position is simple. That this issue, the issue he came to read and talk about or brief parliament about, did not warrant the closure of an embassy. No, it never warranted the closure of an embassy. That was not a good grounds to say you have closed an embassy. And we made the point clear that the closure of the embassy has caused Ghana a lot of problem than good. And that is our position. Well, we emphasized it again on the floor of Parliament yesterday.
But the embassy, I understand, has been reopened. The issue is now access to services.
I'm telling you that. I made the point on the floor. The reopening is just in the name, so to speak. Nothing proper is going on. Look, now the real people from Ghana has not fully integrated into the Washington embassy.
Okay.
A section of people from, New York, that are taking charge of the Washington embassy as of now. And there's a whole lot of chaos. So we are saying that no, you collapse the system and they didn't have a plan to fix a new system before you collapsed it. And that is what has caused all these problems. The minister should have taken his time, should have done a lot of work, should have done a lot of engagement, a lot of consultation, and put down another plan before collapsing what was existing. You don't rush into collapsing a system when you don't have an alternative, or when you don't have a new one in place. And that is what has caused all those challenges, all those, problems that we are facing. These are people complaining, videos all over, disgracing Ghana. That is what is happening, and that is the cause. And our position is clear on this matter.
Okay.
One,
all right.
The minister shouldn't have closed the embassy because of the issue he raised on the floor of Parliament. Two, even before closing the embassy or doing that, you should have had a system in place before that decision was taken. You had no system, you had no backup plan, you have nothing. Then you went ahead and closed an embassy.
All right, we'll have to put those questions to the minister or someone in government. Thank you so much for joining us on News Desk. We'll take a break and return with business.
Welcome back to Business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Taki. In business, the African Development Bank is calling on Ghana to strengthen its economic resilience on the face of growing global uncertainties. The call comes in the wake of the escalating Israel-Iran conflict, which has triggered fresh fears over global economic stability. There is more in this report.
So now we just have to, take the benefits we've seen on the macro and also make micro reforms that would then further stimulate growth.
Yeah. We're seeing some disturbances from the Middle East. I know you're not an economist, but from what you've seen so far, how do you sort of wrap our head around all of this?
I mean, look, one of the things we've come to all realize, especially since COVID, is that the world would always have multiple shocks, right? And so you have to build your economy for resilience. Yeah, because yesterday's shock was COVID. Today's shock is a combination of the wars between Ukraine and Russia, and then also some of the issues in the Middle East, etc. There will always be shocks. So the best thing is to really, prepare your economies for resilience. And this is why we are saying, Africa, trade amongst yourselves. Yeah, I mean, together, we're a $3 trillion GDP economy, right? Let's focus on that. Let's not, right today, we only trade amongst ourselves up to 15%. In Europe and other places, it's 70+%. And we shouldn't all be looking at import substitution of all products. Let's focus on the value chains where we're competitive, okay? And then we trade amongst ourselves. That way, we actually have our economies turning on a regional basis and not just purely on a country basis.
Are we to expect some fresh funding from the bank anytime soon?
There would always be funding from the bank, especially private sector, which is the reason I'm here. We're here looking for bankable projects that we can support and also PPP projects. But we're also trying to create the enabling environment for Ghana's capital to fund Ghana's projects. You don't have to wait for AFDB. You don't have to wait for the West. Ghana has significant capital. We estimate the assets under management in just pension funds alone. We haven't even added, life insurance, investment pools, etc. I mean, that's $5.2 billion equivalent. Just imagine if we took 10% of that and invested into infrastructure in the productive sector. Absolutely. And that's why I have confidence.
And is there a specific amount we're looking at?
Give me the bankable projects and I'll tell you the amount.
In other development, only 4.5% out of 258 metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies covered in the 2024 Public Financial Management Compliance League tables scored more than 50% benchmark. While no metropolitan assembly crossed the 50% threshold, only 3 scored more than the national average of 32.8%. Here is more from the launch of the report organized by the Center for Local Governance Advocacy with support from the European Union.
Out of 258 metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies covered, only 12 scored above the 50% benchmark. The national average improved to 32.8%, up from 22% recorded in 2023. In terms of regional performance, Ashanti, Eastern, Greater Accra and Volta regions recorded scores above the 50% benchmark and national average, while Ahafo, Savannah, Upper West and Western North regions scored below the national average. Gladys Tete is the Deputy Executive Director at the Center for Local Governance Advocacy. She detailed the challenges that led to these outcomes.
The assessment reveals some challenges, and these include underdevelopment planning, weak alignment between development plans, action plans, and progress reports, overstated achievements, and inadequate monitoring mechanisms. Under composite budgeting, limited stakeholder participation, delayed approvals, and poor synchronization between planning and budgeting. Procurement and contracting, weak documentation, and premature contract execution contrary to the procurement regulation.
Governance expert Dr. Eric Odrosai stated that the Public Financial Management Compliance League table will strengthen the financial capabilities of MMDAs and position them to raise funds on the capital market.
That's all for business here on Newsdesk. My name is Winston Kaki. Back to Mamisi for the rest of the bulletin. Mamisi.
Thank you, Winston. And that's how we wrap up on our desk this morning. I am Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Thanks for your attention.
Complaining.